In today's show,
it's like that opening scene at Blade, you know, with this pumping music, industrial. I got introduced to industrial music. I didn't fucking was that, and it reminded me of a version of how the hip hop dancers used to battle back in the day, but to a different style of music, you know, and they were dancing and they were having a blast, and it was just it blew me away. And
just what you're talking about makes me want to go.
Bro,
I wouldn't expect what he was just saying, you know.
For the half-naked chicks that you're interested.
But and yet I've seen
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I didn't even hear that part. I like the ruffled shirts.
But it's a great point. That right, half naked, but yet they felt safe. Welcome back to Think Different Tattoos podcast. I am your co-host Paul-Anthony, and with me,
Gabe Jaksich
and
Chico
Cortez. Yeah, so we're happy to be here, and today we got a great guest, Miguel Valentin. Thank you for being here.
Got it right.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we've been hanging out for a while, and we actually know each other from conventions and just kind of being around South Florida. And then I didn't know that you and Chico also had a history together. And then you had this event this last weekend, which was amazing. And just I'm so glad that you're able to be here.
I'm glad I could be here too, man.
It's
Thanks for having me.
Awesome.
Absolutely. There's so much to talk about. So let's start with what got you into tattooing. It sounds like it also involved a little bit of these men in another state, but how'd you start down the path?
So I learned in prison, basically. I learned in prison. I got tattooed by this kid that came through, and I always wanted to get tattooed, and he was the tattoo artist that came through, and he did the tattoo on me, and it sucked. And I was like, this is bullshit. And I wound up taking his gear and going to town on myself. I spent about 2 years tattooing myself before I ever tried to tattoo anybody else. After I got out of prison, I was just, I didn't think I'd be a tattoo artist or a tattooer. I just needed to get a job, So I was in Harlem at the time. I was living in Harlem up on 139th Street in Lenox, and I was working downtown, and I came across this shop on Lexington Avenue, right by 125th, and I just went in, and I was like, "You looking for a tattoo art or an apprentice?" And he was like, "No, I don't fucking take apprentices. Fuck that." And I was like, "Okay." So I turned around to leave, and he goes, "You know how to draw?" And I was like, "Yeah, I know how to draw, bro. I can draw anything." That was my hustle inside. Fucking envelopes and portraits and all that bullshit.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah, let me see. Draw me a rose." I'd always carry a sketch pad with me and my pencils and all that stuff. And I drew a rose. He's like, "Let me see your handwriting." I drew my handwriting. And he's like, "You got a phone number?" And I didn't have a phone number. But a friend of mine said, whenever if you need my number, use my number, and, you check in once a week for your messages. So a week went by, and I checked in, and she goes, Mr. Leo? And I was like, "Yeah, that's the tattoo guy." He goes, "Yeah." She goes, "Yeah, he wants you to come by the shop." So I was working like 4 in the morning at this bakery, and I'd get out about 12. So I just went uptown. I went there, and the deal was that he was an unknown biker from Brooklyn, and he had an accident, had a metal plate in his head, and he could tattoo his ass off, like line work, color, all that. But if you wanted to change the idea at all, he didn't have that in him. Like something happened with that plate where the creative part of it wasn't there. Like if you want the lion, but you want wings on it, he couldn't draw it. So he'd always kept somebody there who could draw. So the deal was that I would draw for him and make stencils, and I got to watch, I got to ask questions, and I got to learn. And that was the deal. I think it was like 6 months before he ever let me touch his tubes. Like, wouldn't let me touch his tubes.
to clean the tubes.
To clean the tubes.
Not to use them.
Not to use them.
Yeah,
No, God forbid.
Yeah.
God forbid. Like, I couldn't even Yeah, he wouldn't
So you
even
just
let
drew
me.
for 6 months. That
I just
makes
basically
perfect
drew.
sense.
Yeah.
That's the way it was.
And then when you clean the tubes, you did it wrong.
Of course. Oh, yeah,
That's
absolutely.
the
I did
way
it
it
wrong.
was.
For the
He'd
next
come
6
back, he'd
months.
say, "Oh, you see, they fucking do it." Yeah. So, but eventually I got him right. Trial and error. But yeah, I did that for about 6 months, and then it was the summer, and he was tattooing some bodyguard dude, like a big back piece, and he was gonna be rocking all day. And the shop's tiny, bro, tinier than this room right now, bro. It was tiny. It was just like a one-man shop, and but the people are in there, and they're like, they want to get tattooed. So he's like, yo, you got your gear? And I was like, yeah. So I used to carry my shit. He didn't know this, but of course I was tattooing, you know, in the house with my friends, you know what I mean? Because I couldn't tattoo there, but I was buying all my gear from him, and eventually, you know, so, but I would keep it with me in my backpack, and he said, you got your gear? I was like, yeah. He's like, take that name. And I was like, okay. And I did the name, and then after that, it was like a heart and a rose, and then after that was a couple kanjis and blah, blah, blah. Next thing I know, it was like 10 o'clock at night, and I had done maybe 10, 12, 13 tattoos, and I was just like on fire, bro. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then he goes, here's your money for today. And I was like, what? I get paid for this too? I'm quitting my job tomorrow. And I always tell the story. He gave me a good advice. He said, don't quit your job. He's like, give him 2 weeks notice. And I was like, all right, cool. Yeah. And then I was like, but pierce my labret right now. Because they're gonna make me leave anyway, because I couldn't have any piercings. And we were a little inebriated, and he pierced that shit so crooked. That was just like this. My shit swole up like that big. I had to go to Unimax to go get an extra long bar.
Canal Street.
West. I had to get an extra long bar because I didn't want to lose the piercing. And then I gave him my 2 weeks, and then this was 98, bro, and I started tattooing professionally in 98. Back then in New York, I think you still have to you had to go get your license. You know, they gave you like an actual card with your picture on it.
Yeah,
you gotta go. You had to go to the class. The class.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where all the Dominican ladies were there doing eyebrows and getting their shit for eyebrows, the beauty parlor stuff. And that was when I started at Leo's Tattoo Shop in 98, man. And I worked with him for about 4 years. And then I moved to Uptown Tattoos, which later became Harlem Inc. And these guys came in and they bought it from Jay, Rakim's brother. He owned the shop, and then he sold it to them, and they made me the manager. And first thing I did was knock down all the fucking walls. There was like these little fucking partition, like you're in a little tiny office like this, and the first thing I did was get a sledgehammer and just knock down all the walls, open area space. 4 different spots with Spinner, Little Bit, and Jesse.
That's the beginning of the open space shop, pretty much. Because at that time, I remember all the shops used to have like these little
half walls,
plywood walls.
Yeah, with the little fake partition thing.
That you couldn't even flip the chair, move the chair around, or anything.
I don't know what's worse.
Open floor shops in that time.
Mother-in-laws or cubicles. I don't know which one I hate.
Cubicles.
Yeah. And you remember Mike McCabe, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mike McCabe. Because that's where you go. If you're in New York, you go to Unimax. And Mike was working the counter there. And he's like, didn't you just open a shop? I was like, yeah, Harlem Inc. He's like, I want to come up and interview you. And I was like, okay, sure. So that book, Tattooing in New York City, the red and white one, we're in that shit, man.
Nice.
Yeah, that was awesome. From there, I did about 4, I had this 4-year thing, like every 4 years or something.
But that's good.
But I was like, because back then, the Village, that's where you went. That was where the real tattoo artists were at, the real guys. So
that's where you could get the most money.
That's right. That's where all the people were. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I said, you know what? I'm going to try it. I'm going to go down there. And I went down incognito, like looking to get tattooed. I went to these places first. And it was a little intimidating, but then I started looking at everybody's portfolios, and I was like, garbage. Yo, my shit's not that bad, bro. Like, I think I could get a job down here. So I came back the next day with my portfolio, an actual portfolio with actual physical pictures just before all the fucking
black and things.
You put them in the little plastic slots. Yeah, real pictures
on your phone. Yeah.
And I got a job like the first time I went down there in the back of Bleecker Bob's. When that kid he had just opened it up, and that's where I met my wife Alicia.
Wow.
I met her. She came in the second day I was there because she was a piercer. She was like the only piercer that was like in 2 different shops. Like back then, you couldn't work in 2 different shops. It was you worked with us or you don't work anywhere. And she was that good of a piercer that she worked at the one and whatever, and then she did another shift over at this place. I don't even remember the name of that spot. It was just the place behind Bleecker Bob's. That's where you need to go. And she walked in, and I was like, oh, shit, whoa. And I remember I tattooed her that night because she was like, who are you? Who the fuck is this? I was like, check out my book. And I was like, yo, let me tattoo you. She's like, okay. And I did like a purple tribal rose on her fucking ankle or whatever. I took her home that night, and I still can't get rid of her.
Nice. And then you ended up meeting.
So I was in the village for about, I would say like 5 or 6 years. I wound up going from Bleecker Bob's to whatever two. I stayed with Sylvia for about 6 years, and then I met Anthony, St. Anthony, who I now call my brother. And he worked at another shop, but we hit it off. And then he left there because he was living in Jamaica, Queens. And they approached him at the Coliseum Mall. They were like, yo, we want to offer you this space. So he called me up. He was like, yo, I want to do this, but I'm not going to do it without you because I had a little bit more experience at that time than he did. And he's like, but we hit it off. And he's like, yo, I want to do this with you. So we partnered up, and we went to the Coliseum Mall. And we opened up Immortal Inc. Yeah, 2 vampires in the middle of fucking Jamaica, Queens. They didn't know what to do with us, bro. But what was cool was, we love tattooing. And you could tell, like we did everything. We stayed out front and flyered until we got people inside. That's how you did it, And we were giving away shit just to let people know that we could tattoo well. And it blew up, and we did great, man. That first year was crazy. We had that spot for about 5 or 6 years. Then I went on a different path. My brother kept it up for, I think, another 2 or 3 years. And then, wow, then I went off kind of on the deep end, man. I had some drug and alcohol issues.
That happens.
Yeah, that whole lifestyle, got to me, hit me pretty hard. And then, let's see, then.
And where was it that there was the Queens connection between you and Chico? And then.
So it's funny, we were just talking about this. Like, we were neighbors who didn't really know each other. Like, there was a shop called Murder Inc. right across the street. And we didn't meet till, like I said, till Philly.
Yeah.
Till Miami.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's right. Okay.
Basically, I had a record store in the Coliseum. The Coliseum was, I guess, the Mecca of Jamaica, Queens.
Yes.
If anything happened in Jamaica, Queens that was worth talking about, it happened at the Coliseum.
Let me interrupt you for a second. That's where it was all the jewelry stores.
Yes, I took you there.
That's where we used to go and get
Outdoor.
kebab over there.
Yeah, well, Jamaican beef patty.
Yeah.
Jamaican beef patties, yo.
Yeah, if you wanted a good Jamaican beef patty, you had to go there.
You gotta go to Queens.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I had a shop called Dynasty Records, and then I have a brother. I basically raised him. His name is Mike Perez, and
Big Mike,
and basically Big Mike, he was Jamaica Queens. We were what was Jamaica Queens.
Yeah.
And Jamaica Queens had not Jamaica Queens, but the Coliseum had everything in it, like jewelry stores, barbershops, clothing. Sneaker, everything. Well, you name it, it was in the Coliseum. Like you could go to the Coliseum and
like it was the flea market here and the
basically.
Yeah,
you know
flea
what I'm
market
saying?
USA.
But
in
indoors,
2000s,
But indoors, and,
indoors, everything in one place.
And it was weird. It was the safest, most dangerous place you could go.
Yeah.
And there's no way I can explain it, but Miguel understands. And then Miguel got the reputation for having the spot. And I was like, hold up, man. I worked with all these guys from Murder Inc. and Murder Inc. was the shit. You know what I'm saying? I was like, who's Immortal Inc.? You know what I'm saying? And it's funny because I ended up naming one of my shops 20 years later, Immortal Inc.
Yeah.
So it's just like same wavelength.
Name.
But we met in also Mike was supposed to do the Philly show with him. What year was that? 17, 16,
Bro,
15? I don't remember.
Right, so
like
we
that.
just went from early 2000s to 2017. We just skipped,
Yeah, we skipped.
But
a
that's
lot.
great. Nothing wrong with that, but right? But like that's a
okay.
lot of longevity. You started tattooing late 90s?
98.
Okay, yeah.
98 professionally.
Uh-huh.
So the way I track it was like, so I started in New York from Harlem to the Village to Jamaica, Queens, From Jamaica, Queens, I came down to Florida because I was born in the Bronx, but I was raised down here in Florida. I left when I was 16, took off, went back, started, and lived in New York for 20 plus years. But something about Florida just keeps drawing you back. You know, you just keep coming back every 5 years or so. So I came back here. I worked down here with Danny King from Cool Cats for a few years. Then I went back to New York. And then I worked with Mario Barth in New Jersey for about 4 or 5 years. That's what like right before he started the first convention at the Meadowlands. Worked with him for a while. Then I moved to South Carolina in Myrtle Beach. I lived in Myrtle Beach for a few years.
You didn't tattoo out there?
Yeah.
You did?
Oh, yeah.
It's almost impossible to tattoo out there.
No, so the way they have it in Myrtle Beach on Seaboard Street, it's like
That's
zoned.
the only legal
That's
spot.
the only legal
Yeah.
spot. So a friend of mine from Jersey, Anthony, he had moved there. I knew him from Jersey. And I tattooed, like, he's a beast, bro. He would sit for hours. And I tattooed him, and then he moved to South Carolina, which was crazy to me. I'm like, you're a Jersey kid. Like, what are you doing? He's like, no, he moved out there. And he's like, you should come out here. He wanted me to come out for a weekend to tattoo him and a couple other people or whatever. He's like, but yo, you'll like it out here. The tattoo scene is popping. So, okay, so I went out there and I tattooed him, and then I spent some time and I scoped it out. I looked at the shops, and literally it was like they took 6th Avenue and just put it in Seaboard Street in Myrtle Beach but the difference was it wasn't a sex shop in between the tattoo shops. It was like tattoo shop, piercing shop, tattoo shop, tattoo shop, tattoo shop. There was like 9 of them, all next to each other. And everybody used to complain about, oh, well, it's saturated, blah, blah, blah. But people are starting to get more intelligent and more on point that they would look at portfolios, and they would go through all the portfolios, and then they come back to who they like to. So if your portfolio was decent, you were working.
Right.
So I said, you know what? I like it out here. I'm going to try it. And I did that. I went from one shop to each. And by the time I got to the last one, this cat, Randy, who was the manager of the first one that I went to, he's like, let me see your book. Shows the book. He's like, come here. And I went back to the first shop, Bulldog Tattoos. And he's like, hire this guy. So I started working there. So that lasted for about a year. And then there were some issues, like there usually is, with owners who are not tattoo artists or tattooers. And I wound up going to Karma Inc. And I worked there, which was a more cohesive spot because the owner was a tattooer, and he worked his ass off. He was pretty good. And then, let's see. Then after that, I was there for about another 3 years, and then I had a death in the family, and I had to come down here to Florida. So, okay, I skipped 2005. In 2005, I was back down here in Florida working at Merlin's in North Miami Beach.
May he rest in peace.
May he rest in peace. Fucking gem of a man, bro. Gem of a man. And I was in the quagmire of addiction, man, and I wound up catching a DUI and taking a 5 years probation. I couldn't stay on probation, couldn't finish it, wound up violating. But she didn't lock me up that day, and I wound up in a plane, and I went back to New York. This is when I started back in the village and then went to Jersey. Had to recalibrate my whole life and remove my family. I just bought a house in Sunrise, and all that went to crap. And I skipped, and I went to New York, and eventually I landed in Jersey, and that's where, like a good manipulator, alcoholic, I was able to manipulate. My apartment was across the street from the tattoo shop. My daughter's school was 3 blocks away. So who needs a driver's license? Who needs a bank?
This is when you were working for Mario?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. In Patterson,
Jersey's interesting
in
like
Patterson,
that.
New Jersey.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just like, who needs a bank account? I'll just put everything in my wife's name, blah, 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 you know. And I lived like that for like 12 years. From Jersey, I got tired because we got hit by Sandy, and then right after that was this huge snowstorm. I hurt my back. I was out for like 4 months behind that, and I was like, I'm done with this cold. And that's when I moved to South Carolina, Myrtle Beach. Then I was there for, like I said, about 3 or 4 years, and then I had the death in the family. I came back down here, 2015. So I think that brings us up to
relatively.
Relatively,
we're getting closer.
So yeah, so those fills out some of the gaps. 2015, my aunt passed away, and I had to face the music. I was ducking this warrant for 12 years, and I finally had to face the music, and I did. And while I was in there, it's crazy that I say this, but that was the best thing that could have happened to me, because I learned about recovery, and I decided that it's time, because the shit wasn't working. My way wasn't working. And I tried something new, and it's been working. Thank God. 2016 is when I finished that, and I walked away with no probation, no parole, no ankle monitor, no community service. Like the first time in my life since I was like 15 that I wasn't on some type of community control or probation or parole or something. And I just made a choice. I really made a choice to prove these people wrong. Like, I didn't believe it was possible. Like, I've been drinking and using since I was young. And then these guys who would bring in meetings to the jail, they would be like, yo, it's possible. So I went to prove them wrong. I was like, I'm going to take every suggestion that you offer. But when that shit doesn't work, then I'm out. And it started working. And it continued to work, and things got better. And then I got my life in order. And I'm learning how to deal with life without drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
And it just keeps getting better and better. And so when I first got out in 2016, I started working for Stevie Moon down here in Florida. And that was a really good experience. I learned a lot from that man. I started to build up a clientele. But then, we parted ways, and I went to Ink Addiction over on Oakland Park. And
which has a certain irony to it.
It does, right? Yeah, yeah. I traded one addiction for another. I was addicted to tattoos anyway, but
second one's safer.
Yeah, a lot safer, a lot safer. And so what was funny was I interviewed for Donna before I got locked up, and obviously she was like, "Yeah, no, we're good, thanks, thanks," because I was unemployable at that point. So then afterwards, when Steve and I parted ways, I went back to we had a guest artist, this kid Charlie at Stevie's, and he lasted about a week. Stevie is a very interesting individual to work with.
He's a hard person to work with, but he's an amazing artist.
Amazing artist. But he's he's just like a lot of us who are fucking local. But so Charlie worked with us for about a week, and then he went to Ink Addiction. I left Stevie's, and I went and I talked to Danny, and I was like, "Yo, I need a spot." He's like,
Cool cat.
"Yeah, cool cat." And he still had it, and he's like, "I'm doing a booth rent right now." I was like, "What?" Done. So I was there for a little bit, and I was at a Starbucks, and I was waiting in line, and I see Charlie, and Charlie goes, "Yo, what's going on?" And I said, "Yeah." Cool Cats at that point was on the kind of the decline, man. It wasn't really a very positive place. And he was like, "Yo, you should come check out Ink Addiction, bro. You'd love it there. We'd love to have you, blah, blah, blah." So I went, and I hung out there, just to feel the vibe. And before I knew it, I was at the table, the drawing table. They have this beautiful, long drawing table that's illuminated. And I was just drawing, bro. I just felt so comfortable that I just sat down. I was just like, started drawing some stuff out. And I was looked around, and everybody's working and stuff. There was like four artists at that time. And it was just, I was like, yeah, I think this is it. So I went on with them, and my clientele built up more and more. I did about another 4 years with her over at Ink Addiction. Shout out to Donna, because she's, like I was telling you, she's a unicorn. She she gives you the space to do what you need to do. She's not an artist, and that's why I say she's a unicorn, because usually if you're not a tattooer and you own a studio, you're either on top of your artist 100%, or you're trying to change things that you have no business being in. And she wasn't like that. She provided a space for us to do what we do. And so I worked with her. We worked there for about 4 years, and then right before the pandemic, during the pandemic, actually, she was like, "Yo, I'm thinking about opening up another shop." And I was like, "Where?" And she's like, "Wilton Manors." And I was like, "Well, let's go look at the spot." And we looked at it. It was a good spot. Excuse me. It was a good spot. And everybody at that time, when the pandemic hit, nobody wanted to come into work. So I had Oakland Park all to myself. And anybody who runs a good tattoo shop knows that is one of the cleanest places around. Should be hospital grade anyway. So there was nobody there. I GI'd the whole place again just to make sure. Talk to my clients and say, "Yo, how are you feeling? Are you okay?" And then I'll wear a mask. If you want to wear a mask, we'll wear a mask, whatever. But you're booked. You want to keep this going? And my clients were like, "Yeah, absolutely." So I worked through the whole pandemic. And then after that, then we locked in the spot in Wilton Manors, and I'm now part owner. You know, so it's the first, second time I own a studio. And the cool thing is that I get to be the creative part of it, you know, and I was able to manifest a positive tattoo environment, you know, in my studio where, I mean, we have Bob Ross playing on the TV, man. There's easels set up to paint. There's a drawing table in the back. Everybody gets their choice of music, you know. It's an open area for, you've seen the shop. It's an open area spot. It looks kind of like a tricked out Apple store, you know, where you walk in, there's good lines, good feng shui, as I was told. And I've been there for now 4 years. 4 years there. We've been doing great. I introduced piercing there because there was a big void in the piercing industry in that area. And I should clarify that, like, quality jewelry, you know, and quality piercings. We don't do a lot of stupid piercings that are dangerous. And we only use titanium jewelry or gold. High standard, basically, you know, high end stuff. And the community there is great. I love it. And we've been going strong.
That's great.
Strong 4 years.
You know, and it's really something, right? Getting to know you and understand all the things that you're involved with, right? You're talking about putting Bob Ross on in the background in a really clean shop, right? And then on Friday night, I'm at the Vampire Ball with you, right?
On the background with titanium white.
Yes.
Right. It's just like, well, and then there's this other, you know, I mean, I think about you as somebody who's creating community as well, right? I mean, so you got longevity, legacy, right, is really starting to become a thing in your life, obviously, right? And there's a community that you're part of. Just this last Friday, I went to the Vampire Ball. It was rad. It was great. You know what it shared. So it was showing me that we can do more than just, you know, work in a booth.
Sure.
6 hours, you know, at a time, 6 days a week, right? Like you are doing more than just being a tattoo artist.
Sorry
You're
to
expanding.
interrupt for a second. Did you went to a vampire convention with your good human
It
shirt?
was. I didn't wear my good humans. No. I wore all
What the
black.
fuck?
I wore all black. Yeah. It was a vampire
Okay,
ball.
not the good
but it was
human.
somewhat of a
It's
convention.
not the place to take the good human
yeah.
T-shirt.
You know, it still would have fit in. I don't think he
we
would have
like
had a
humans.
problem with it.
We're
But
cool with
Miguel
humans.
did tell me, he's like, you know, it's a vampire ball. You got to just. So I was. I was.
You
in a
got to
full
dress up.
tuxedo.
You look great.
for
You
sure.
look great.
Thanks.
There you go.
And your
Appreciate
date
it,
looked
you know?
really good too.
Yeah, it was the second annual, right?
Second annual. Yep.
And so share with people a little bit more about what I thought was so interesting. You told me about creating a space, a safe space for the community, for people with alternative lifestyles.
Correct.
And I felt that there. I mean, it was tremendously eclectic, and everybody was smiling.
Yeah.
And it was really, really warm. And it's dark and warm at the same time. It was really, really something. Just like Bob Ross and you in a tattoo shop at the same time, right?
Yeah.
Totally.
Sounds like my bedroom with no AC.
Yeah.
Okay.
So share with us more about how it came about.
Okay, so it started. I've been in the vampire community for about just as long as I've been tattooing. I got introduced to it in New York, up in Harlem. through some friends that I was working with, and they went to this vampire party in Harlem. And man, like I had just come out of prison, so I was like, I'm a sponge. I want to taste everything, you know. And vampire party, sure, let's go check it out. And I went, and it was nothing but Black and Latinos walking around,
Which you wouldn't expect.
which you would not expect. And there was like two kind of classes. It was like the Victorian guy with the ruffled shirt and the top hat, but he's Puerto Rican. And then you had the kind of Blade style guy, you know, that was like all blacked out with like karate shoes on and fake. Well, actually, some of them had real weapons on them.
Thank you, Wesley Snipes.
Yeah, thank you, Wesley Snipes, for sure. And they were dancing, and the girls were the same thing, like either full out ball gowns or like just sexy outfits. And half of them were like half naked. And what I noticed and what I peeped was that your girl could walk around half naked and not one dude was disrespecting them.
Right.
Like you go to these clubs and you know, you always got to keep an eye on your girl. You know what I'm saying? Because some dude's trying to fucking make on her or whatever. And this was not that. Like dudes were like bowing and kissing the hand and pulling out chairs. And this is at a club. And it's like that opening scene at Blade, you know, with this pumping music, industrial. I got introduced to industrial music. I didn't fucking was that, and it reminded me of a version of how the hip-hop dancers used to battle back in the day, but to a different style of music, you know. And they were dancing and they were having a blast, and it was just it blew me away. And
Just what you're talking about makes me want to go.
bro,
I wouldn't expect what he was just saying, you know.
For the half-naked chicks got your interest.
But and yet I've seen
I'm
it.
just saying.
Yeah.
I didn't even hear that part. I like the ruffled shirts.
But it's a great point that half naked, but yet they felt safe.
They were safe,
and people were respectful
Until
of them.
Chico is gonna be there.
which is not what people from the outside world would think of until you're actually inside, living and breathing inside of an alternative community.
exactly.
You know?
Now let
was
me
the
ask
thing.
you a stupid
They
question.
were welcoming. Go ahead.
Were
Right.
Wolverines, were werewolves and shapeshifters allowed to come?
Absolutely. That
I
was
can
another
go-
thing about the community was that you
Lycans.
had
And-
vampires, you had lycans, you had werewolves, because there's a difference.
What's a lichen? Is like a werewolf?
so-
or is like,
It has
It's-
diabetes.
It's
I'm good then.
you're in. I don't know the specifics of it, but there's a difference between lycanthropy and the werewolf condition, if
I'm
you
gonna have to
will.
look it up. Lichens.
But there was creatures of the fae, you know, fairy people. There was what they call like people that were like cats, like kind of cat.
so
any
this
kind
is
of
like
mystical.
a whole like
It's like
taping of the
Redford.
New Hope.
It was kind of
only on
like
a Tuesday in Miami.
yeah, basically, and like everybody was welcome. You know, you could dress like however you wanted to. You know, the only thing that was minimum was all black. You know, and you had to be respectful. There was an etiquette. You know, you don't approach somebody unless, you know, you introduce yourself first. And like dudes, like hood dudes that were dressed up were taking the hand and kissing the hand, you know, holding out the chair, you know, escorting their girl this way or that way or whatever. And to me, that was just amazing. Like I was like, this is not like nothing I've ever seen. So I went to a couple of those parties, and I was working with a guy who's now is my brother in that same house. So there's houses that I found out later, right? So the elders of the house showed up at Harlem Inc. And they were like, we want to talk to Miguel. And I was like, because there was 4 elders of that house, right? 2 guys and 2 girls. And they showed up at the tattoo studio, and they were like, yeah, we want to speak with Miguel. And I'm thinking, fuck, what did I do? Like, who did
That's
I
what I
fucking
was
piss
thinking.
off?
What did
Yeah,
you do?
like, because at that time I was still drinking, and I'm a blackout drinker, and I might have done something stupid. No, they wanted to introduce me to their house. And
Which means
do you want to be a part of our house? We went walking down the street, and I could see it in my head because I've been wearing all black pretty much all my life, you know, because I was into outlaw biker shit before I ever got into the vampire stuff. And so we're walking down the streets of Harlem, and they're vamped out, with corsets and a little black parasol and shit. We're walking down there telling me about this house, this vampire house called Hidden Shadows, and how what they're about is about family, about community, and about nonviolence. And when I found out more, 2 of the elders of that house are martial art experts, like masters. They were trained from little kids because their father was a master karate. And the place that I found that we went to the party was a dojo. Like it was a dance, it was Harlem Dance Academy. Next to that was I don't even want to say it wrong, but it was a karate dojo. And then next to that was the club space that I was at. And here it is, this dude that could break you down in 2 minutes talking about nonviolence. And I just, like I said, just came home from seeing a lot of violence. And I was like, I'm about that. What do we do? Well, I said, well, let me think about it, because I was dating Alicia at the time. And I said, well, what do you think? And we thought about it. They were a little like, what do you mean? You're not going to join like right now? I'm like, no, I don't do anything like that. We got to talk about this. And we talked about it and we decided, yeah, okay. So you start out in the house as an initiate and you get to know the other people.
So basically a probie?
Basically a probie, yeah. And you get to know everybody and you present yourself and there's meetings and
so basically it's like an alternative lifestyle, but cult-like?
I wouldn't say cult-like.
I know cult has like a negative vibe
but
to
yeah,
it, but I mean,
yeah,
it's a subculture.
Yeah.
it's a sub.
It's
Yeah,
a culture.
that's right.
Alternative lifestyle. Alternative
It is
culture.
because and then I learned more about the whole concept of the vampire. Because if you look at the positive attributes of the vampire, right? They're charming. They're strong. They're fast.
they're wise.
They're powerful. They're wise. They're able to manipulate energy. Things like this, it kind of gets attractive. It's like, you know what? Out of all those type of stereotypes or archetypes, I could relate with this. I could vibe with this. So that's what it happened. I started out as an initiate. We both started out as initiates. You have what's called a sire, somebody who brings you in and is supposed to teach you certain things. And this is like 2000. So the vampire community had just blown up hard in New York. Like it started in 96, got really hard in 98. And by 2000, there was a big community with a lot of different houses. And we would meet regularly on Sundays at the Raven Cafe down on Lower East Side. And we would just like take over this bar and just like enjoy each other's company. And then there was a few major parties that happened. And one of them was the Hidden Shadows Realm of Darkness. We were like once a month on a Saturday, and it was amazing. Like it was primarily, like I said, Black and Latinos, because the fairer complexion were a little afraid to come up to Harlem until we started popping off so hard that they couldn't deny it. I remember one night when we knew that a bunch of people were coming, we set up escorts at the 125th Street Lexington train station to escort them the 4 blocks to the venue. And it was about acceptance, and it was about community, and it was about nonviolence, and that just fit perfect with me where I was at in my life right then. And so yeah, I've since started. Back then I was still tattooing, but again, I'm the type of person, when there's a void, I don't complain about the void. I figure out how to fill the void, because I'm creative. You know what I'm saying? I can do this. And that was one of the things too that my sire taught me. I was like, why don't we teach the kids this, and why don't we teach them this, and why we should be practicing and having classes and blah blah. He's like, that's not our job. He's like, our job is to set the example. You want something, you go out and you get it. You don't have to, it's not your responsibility. You build it and they will come. That type of vibe. So I started throwing parties where I could do the things that I wanted to do. And back then I got introduced to Lucas Zapira, a famous body modification artist. And I'd always been into, I'd been looking at his stuff for years. suspension, human suspension and scarification and the tongue splitting and the ear pointing and all that stuff. And it was, I forget what year, maybe 2001 at the Roseland at the tattoo convention.
Mm-hmm.
So I was working at the tattoo convention for the Transformatorium, the Halloween Adventure store, tattooing. And so our party was Saturday, right? And we always pretty much set it up so that it was the same weekend as the tattoo convention. So Friday, I'm tattooing and I'm passing out flyers for the party. Saturday was the party. And myself and Joe Snake, Joe Snake was a piercer back then. We were riding pretty tough. And we were experimenting with piercing stuff, doing, we did a fashion show of clothing that attached to piercings for the vampire parties because the space allowed me a stage to do whatever I wanted to do. So we were doing like capes that attached to like the staple piercings in the thing. I made a dress that attached to nipple piercings in the back and just crazy stuff. So that was Saturday at the party. I did this fashion show thing. And then Sunday was back at the convention because I'm trying to see every day at this tattoo convention. And I walk and I'm like, oh shit, there's Lucas Zapira. And I go, excuse me, Mr. Zapira. I love your work, man. This is, I'd love to suspend one day. I tell him I've always had this fascination with flying and blah, blah, blah. And he goes, oh, yeah, we can make you fly. And he's like, oh, and I liked your show last night. And I was like, what? This dude was there, dude. He was there on the low to just peep what was happening. And I was like, you were there? He's like, yeah, it was very cool what you did. He's a French guy. And that was the beginning of me getting stronger into the body modification world. He did my first suspension. He did my first scarification. We used the venue to do the Flesh and Blood Freak Connection party that he does worldwide. We brought people from all over the world to come and do all the body modifications.
So you've done suspension as well.
Yes.
So you didn't do it over the weekend at the event, but you've done suspension.
I've done So I've done what they call the hangman from the four in the back. I've done what they call Superman, which is a horizontal suspension.
What was that like the first time? How did you have the guts to do it, and then how did it all occur?
Well, through Lucas doing his party, right? Because he when he went to the Hidden Shadows party, he's like, this space is amazing. You guys feel, I love it. And he'd like, I'd like to do a party there. So I'm like, okay, we can make that happen. So he invited all of his friends from all around the world to come to New York and do this party. And my payment, if you will, for the party was to get a scarification. So I wanted to get Art Core, right, which is the suspension crew that I'm a part of now, right? But it was like getting my placa, like that was my okay, you're in type of thing. So the first thing that I got was that one. Then the second party that we did the following year, I wanted to suspend, and it was just, it's time to do it. Like, I know it can be done. Now I just need to know if I can do it, right? And and mind you, I'm learning more about energy transference. I'm learning about mastery of vampirism, which is basically just mastery of self. And I do this. I get the hooks in my back, and I remember there was 3 of us. It was me, Joe Snake, and one of my elders, Zilla. And Michael Monkey Meat was there. Back, you remember him from Andromeda?
No.
Anyway, so he was there. He had done. So I'm the first one to get hooked and rigged, and
you had never had
hooks
hooks
before ever.
So take us through it. What does it feel like?
Exactly.
So the piercing is spicy for sure. That's about the hardest part,
Well,
though.
explain, because it's not a regular piercing.
Oh no, so
And
okay,
it's not a regular gauge.
absolutely. So okay, in reference to gauges,
What
it
is it,
would
like
be
a 10?
considered like a 10 gauge needle, followed by a 10 gauge hook.
For those of
Like
you
a
who don't
shark hook.
understand, when you go get pierced nowadays, you're getting a 16 gauge needle, maybe 14, but 16, if not 18 in most places. And that's 14 is your belly. That's
Right.
the thickest one we really use.
Correct.
A 10 gauge is basically something like that, which
Yeah.
doesn't seem a lot, but it's twice, maybe 3 times as big as a 14.
Right. The
So if
lower
you got your
go,
belly
the number-
pierced,
Yeah, the
the
lower you go,
needles-
the big. The
Yeah.
lower you go, is the bigger it is.
So if you got your
is.
belly pierced, it's about 3 of those.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a pretty big thing.
Does it hurt?
It
I'm
hurts,
just
sure, of
kidding, I
course.
know it hurts.
And it's not just a piercing, it's a superficial piercing. What's the length? Like an inch?
So yeah, it's about 2 inches.
inches?
You want to get enough skin,
Enough meat, yeah.
enough meat to get to be able
That's
to
what
hold
people
it
don't
up.
understand.
Right. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
That's
so
why I'm asking.
the like when we started doing it here now, like afterwards, we went to Marine World and we got shark hooks, 8/0 shark hooks, and we would carve the birthing off of it
Mhm.
to make them smooth. So yeah, so those you get pierced with the needle and then you follow through with the hook. This is before like Gilson hooks and the way
Yeah.
the suspension game just whoosh,
Oh,
just it's so technical right now that I'm just like hats off, bro. Hats off to the way they've set the standard now.
Well, they had to almost.
They had to.
There
But
was,
what was
there was
crazy-
a lot of new guys who didn't know what they
Didn't
were
know
doing.
what. Well, that was me. That was.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. 2009, Coral Springs, South Florida Tattoo Convention.
Yeah.
I saw the guy falling.
Yeah, exactly.
Remember next to the pool?
Robbie Repo lost a leg because
Right,
of a
because-
bad
Bro,
suspension.
it went like puff.
Right.
Right.
And those, I know of 4, and I'm not. I don't.
And
I
we
don't-
were-
I'm not in the suspension game.
Right.
And
And
so I
we
imagine
were-
how many others have happened.
Look, we were, yeah. Fuck yeah.
Yeah. But
That's my glucose. So I'm sorry.
okay.
She's been calling your number for like several times.
is that her name, Glucose?
Yeah,
Yeah.
glucose is like means my
But,
sugar's low.
But okay, so they
So
put
the
hooks.
first,
Yeah.
the first
10
time I
gauge.
did the suspension, it was 4 hooks to the back,
Mm.
and they're spaced out, so to distribute the weight. And this is like early 2000s, we were using. I love to admit it because we did it,
Shit.
and I've never fell, I've never slipped, knock on wood. And I've never had a slip out, I've never had a rip out, I never had my rig slip or nothing. We were using wax twine that you get from the hardware store. And I looked at it and I was like, okay, it says 100 pounds weight.
100-pound test.
I'll just double that up. That's fine. Or 300, I'll do it 3
Triple,
times.
yeah.
Triple that shit up. And that's how we do it. There's a picture of me hanging from the limelight in 2006 in
Yeah.
New York. I'm like, and I'm pretty sure I'm the only person who's ever done a suspension at the limelight. I'm reenacting the crucifixion of Christ. And you could see the clear wax twine
Because
that
of the
we
lights,
use.
right?
Yeah, because that's what we use for the rig, from the hooks to the rig.
Wow.
So yeah, we were, thank God I had somebody like Lucas who understood, proper stuff,
Weight distribution.
weight
and everything.
distribution and pulley systems and all of that. Because at first we started with like regular pulleys, tack stuff. Then we upped it up to sailboat stuff.
I've seen guys use rope.
Yeah, I've seen guys use chain and like the old one thing. You progress and you learn. But so we did, and the thing was too. One of the prerequisites was no drugs and no alcohol for 3 days before the suspension,
Makes sense.
which was rough for me. Don't get it fucking twisted. But
Explain
I was
why.
well because when the whole concept is to rise above your body, right? It's more of a mental thing, and if you're high and you're drunk, your mental's not right, The Native Americans used to do this for 3 days. They would stay up for 3 days because what they wanted to do was see their ancestors, because it's a spiritual thing. It's something that's supposed to, when you deny the body and you realize you're spirit, you're an inner being, that's what you're going for. And that's the energy that I was taught should come with suspensions. And so 3 days of just no drugs, no alcohol. You're going to feel everything, not just the pain, but you're going to feel the experience too of rising above your body,
Right.
if you will,
Yeah.
and literally. So And we did this power circle, you know, everybody who was involved in the suspension right before the suspension. And so it was funny because I'm the first one to get hooked and rigged up. And Michael Monkey, he's got the tension. Like, and I'm like, okay, it's about to happen. And I got my ball, my energy ball. I'm ready to go. And I look over and they're still rigging Joe.
By the way, an energy ball is not an 8-ball. There's a difference.
That's right.
Okay, I just
You
want to
have to
clarify
remember
that.
You have to
It's like,
clarify
wow, I get an
that.
energy ball. It's like, no, it's not Red Bull,
Yeah.
motherfucker. It's different. But go ahead.
I look over, Joe is still getting his rig done, and like, I kind of imploded. I was like, and I passed out because I had this energy, I was ready to release it, and then I realized I'm not going up for another 10 minutes, so I kind of just overload
All those endorphins.
all those endorphins just whoop like this, and I come to, and they smack me up a little bit, pour some water on my face, give me some orange juice. And they go, "You okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And now I look and they're set now. And I'm like, "Yeah, let's do this." I hit myself in the stomach. I'm like, "Let's do this." And I went up, man. And I tell you, I regained my energy ball, not my 8-ball. And I'm up. And then you realize you're up. Like I did it, physically did it. And now that energy, I release it to the audience. And I saw this wave go over the audience, and then it came back, and I tell you, that was better than any fucking high or whatever that I could ever feel, because they gave it to me, you know. I gave it to them, and then they gave it back to me, and that was communion for me, and it was the epitome of energy transference, which fell right in line with the whole master vampire idea. And then now you're just having fun. You're swinging. You're doing what you can. You could pick up somebody, all that good stuff.
Wow.
So it changed my life. It changed everything. And then I continued to do the things that I learned to do by when I would throw these parties. I would say, "Listen, can I do this?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure. Do whatever you want to do." And that led to, you know, more events, more suspensions,
And it's
doing it as performance.
It's interesting that you had your moments of sobriety before those extreme physical events, right? But then addiction is just so crazy that you went back into it. But you had those moments of profound, deep clarity and a high that was beyond the substance.
Right.
And you had, those were your little peaks into it along the way. And then now you're in a place
moments of clarity.
Yeah. And now you're sustaining it, you know, every day and building community by choice with the clarity that you have now.
Right. So since I've been sober, and so I'm coming up on 9 years in February 2000.
Congratulations.
From 2016.
Congratulations,
Thank you. I waited till I was about 6 years into it, and I missed doing events. I missed throwing parties, and like I was telling you, I was in LA, and a friend of mine suggested about setting up a Halo, which is a vampire egregore, or just an area where people of the alternative culture feel comfortable. Like, you know, like now, word is out that South Florida, from like West Palm to Miami, is Hell's Gate Halo. And that means that you can come here and you could be your vampire, you could be your witch, you could be your fairy, your werewolf, whatever, and there'll be a place for you to go and feel comfortable and safe. So when he hit me with the idea, I was like, bro, I just got a new studio. I'm working 6 days a week. I don't have a team out here. So I kind of just let it go. And then when I came back from LA, the universe just provided people that were down to make this thing happen. So I started building it. I started, you know, writing things down. This is the way I operate. I've learned this. I shared this with somebody. KRS-One did a talk at a college about the inner being, and how when we speak without using our mouths, we can hear ourselves in our mind. And when we close our eyes, we can see clearer. Like, we could close our eyes and see our past. So we close our eyes, we can see our past, we can see our future.
This was KRS-One?
KRS-One. Check it out on YouTube.
Wow.
It's called KRS-One Rockstar because he pulls up a sticker from Rockstar Energy Stern. He said, "We're going to use this. I'm going to give you not a lesson, but an experiment." He's like, "I want you to say Rockstar on the count of 3 without moving your mouth, without saying anything out loud. Say it inside. 1. You guys do it too, right now. Watch. We're going to say Rockstar, right? So 3, 2, 1. Did you do it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then he asks, "What voice was that?" Right? And then he says, "Were you able to hear yourself in your mind, in your voice, say Rockstar? How did you hear yourself speak without using your mouth? There was no vibration, but you heard yourself say it. What voice is that?" And then you can close your eyes and see the sticker that says Rockstar because we can see our past. And if we can see our past, we can see our future. And what he's saying is that that inner voice that said Rockstar is our spirit. The flesh is temporary. That voice that spoke without moving your mouth, that's our spirit. That's our soul, whatever you want to call it. And once we recognize that, that's the power of, that's what gives power to the external voice when we say Rockstar. Because now it's not just a shell talking, it's the inner being talking. So that's just that. I was just talking about this. I re-listened to that just to remember.
That's crazy that you said that because I have this inner voice that tells me to shut up all the time. But I don't listen, but I
But
hear
you don't listen.
and
ever.
when I close my eyes, I see a fist. And
That's
but
your spirit.
I just don't listen.
Tired of
But
you.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It looks like his ex-baby
At
mama's
first,
fist.
first I thought it was my wife behind me, but I turn around and she's not
It's
there.
really, really your spirit.
It's
Tired
my
of your
spirit.
shit.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Totally.
Just wanted to share.
That's great.
But what he says, it makes a lot of sense because
No.
from the point of view, like, I'm sorry, I'm just hitting your microphone. The point of view of energies, it's funny because it makes me think when I was listening to what you were saying, as a technological society, we believe in energies. Even we believe in Wi-Fi. We know it exists. We do a lot of things with Wi-Fi. We don't know what the fuck it is.
Mm.
And it's an energy. It's a
Right, we
wave.
can't see it.
It's a radio signal. So we believe in those things. And then when you talk to somebody about the energies of what you can attract, what you can do,
We have our own Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, yeah, we
exactly.
definitely. Right, but a lot of people don't want to believe it, but they'll believe in the fact that you can
Exactly.
just touch a button and hit Wi-Fi.
Exactly.
We're all vibrations, bro. Everything is vibrate. We're
Exactly.
energy
And you'd have
encased
to- you'd have
in
to-
flesh.
Frequencies
Yeah.
all over.
And you'd have to tap into something other than an attachment to your physical body in order to hang by hooks.
Exactly.
You see
know?
that? I
It makes a
admire
lot of
you.
sense.
Wow.
I admire you. I'm almost like jealous because that's something I'm gonna say since 2003 when I saw my first thing. Like I'm friends with Aaron Itz, I'm friends with Joe, I'm friends with Spartacus. I don't know if you know Spartacus in Texas.
I think so.
They've all done suspensions and they've all told me, "Come on, Chico." And I'm like, hell no. You know, and it's not hell no because I don't want to do it. It's hell no because I don't have the balls to do it. You know, so but it's something that I've always wanted to do.
You don't have the energy ball, the A ball, or your hanging balls.
I don't have the pair of balls to do it.
Okay,
It's
the
like,
hanging ones.
right.
Okay.
See now, so just to that right there, bro. I just think you haven't directed the energy that you want because I've seen you change the world, bro. I've seen you change. No, bro, no bullshit, bro. What you've done for the tattoo community, that's just refocus it on if that's really what you want to do. You want to do a suspension, then you could do it. I know you could do it. I've seen guys. Because I remember we talked about it once or twice. You were like, "No, I'm too heavy for that shit."
No.
I've seen when Emilio was 300 pounds, he did it and picked somebody up. It's all about intention. It's all about what you want to do, and that's where that energy comes in, and where you say, "Okay, this is what I'm going to do." If that's what you want to do, then you'll do it. You can do it. You have the balls. It's just choosing to do it, making that choice.
Yeah. Yeah, and you
And
do have
I know a guy, and I know a guy.
I figured you would
I
know
know
a
a
guy.
guy.
I know a guy.
I like that one. I like
We'll
that
make that
shit.
shit happen.
You
I
know,
know a
we'll
guy.
talk after this, and I think I have intention.
Okay.
nice.
I just gotta find the balls.
Miguel, this has been great. I think we could talk for hours and hours.
Right,
But this
okay,
has
we'll
been
move on.
awesome. This has been fantastic to have you here. So how do people? Well, before we go, actually, I want to follow up on one thing. There's this movie, Sing Sing,
Yes.
right?
Yes, let's talk about that.
Is deep and personal to you. So tell us about that, about the film and your journey and connection to it.
Okay, so the movie Sing Sing, where it'll be re-released in January. It was released earlier this year, starring Coleman Domingo and Clarence Macklin. The director is Greg Quidar, and so this is a story about, in part, the rehabilitation through the arts program that I was a part of in '96 and '97 at Sing Sing Correctional Facility or Sing Sing Prison. And it's a program that teaches the incarcerated men there about how to get into poetry, how to get into acting, how to write plays, how to direct. And there's other facets to it about music and art and, like mixed media stuff. It's a way for the men to kind of reclaim their humanity, if you will, because being in a prison situation, you can lose that. You have to put on the mask and you have to act that part. And this is a chance to reclaim your humanity. So I was a part of that program back in '96 and '97. And it briefly, after I was paroled, the program continued and flourished and just got more and more attention. The director, Greg Quidar, heard about it through an Esquire article that was published and got involved as a volunteer. And he would go into the prison and he would volunteer his time to teach these guys directing. Eventually, he decided to make a movie out of this. And it was about an 8-year process of him coming up with the movie. And so the first script was kind of squashed, and the second script that they brought to the consultants, one of the consultants being Brett Buell, who is a volunteer for the RTA program for many years. It got accepted and they went into production. So 3 years ago, I got a call from Brent saying they're going to do this movie and they want to use the alumni from the RTA program, the guys who have been released and are still released that were part of the program. They want to use them in the movie. And I was like, okay. He's like, and they're paying, they're going to put you up, they're going to fly you out, all that. Very, very professional thing. And it had been years since I'd been involved in any of that stuff in movies or videos or any of that shit. So I was like, yeah, I'm down, whatever. So they flew us out, they flew me out, and we filmed at Downstate Correctional Facility. Most of it, some of it was shot in the Sing Sing, but not with the cast. And they made the movie. And so the few cool things about that, the setup was that we all got paid the same scale, I think it's SAG scale.
SAG scale, yeah.
And we're all owners of the movie. Like I own points in this movie.
So you got scale and points.
Yes.
Great. Awesome.
Which is unheard of in
Yeah.
the film industry.
Especially
not
for
just the
non-name actors.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not just the cast, but the crew.
Mm.
Everybody
Everybody
who
did.
was a part of this movie owns a piece of their movie. So in essence, I own a piece of my story,
Yeah.
which is super cool. And then, like I said, 90% of the cast were formerly incarcerated people. So they wrap the film. We see the film. It's great. It's beautiful. Now they're going to shop it. We missed Sundance. They went to Toronto, the Toronto Film Festival. A24 picks it up.
I saw. Yeah.
They loved it, and they beat out Sony because Sony it was a bidding war for a while. A24 picks it up and they run with it, and they've been doing an amazing job with promoting this film. Like I said, it was released. It was here in Florida for a little bit, but then they pulled it, and now they're re-releasing it in January. And it's getting a lot of buzz. There was an article, there was a segment in CBS Sunday Morning just yesterday about Ted Koppel went in and saw the program. So it's getting a lot of buzz. It's a really great movie. I'm just happy to be a part of it because it talks about the the brotherhood and humanity of formerly incarcerated people and the incarcerated people that, you know, we're not just our past, right? Because a testament of that is these are the full, 90% of the cast are people who have been out and have stayed out because of their experience with RTA, right? And here's a fact: New York State, New York State, the recidivism rate for people who are incarcerated is 60% are back within 3 years, right? Members of RTA, the recidivism rate 3%.
That's awesome.
3%. So that's the message.
Yeah, it means something. Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
And not just in any jail in Sing Sing.
Sing Sing, right.
Not just in it. So what?
That's a big difference.
And
Yeah.
there is I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's a very, very, very famous inmate from that, Jose Feliciano. It seems like visit La Cárcel de Sing Sing
He
in
wrote
the song. No? I'm telling you. Jose
I was always-
Feliciano, he
when I-
was
so-
there, very famous.
I thought he was
Inmate.
going to go with like Al Capone or something.
you visit
Well, listen, and I always
La
said if you could get
Cárcel
a
de Sing
record
Sing.
recording studio on Rikers Island, you
this
do
is-
well. Call it Rikers Records. You know, plenty of guys I knew in there.
No,
that were
that's,
really
you can't. That would be R&R.
you know?
Right.
But this obviously made a huge difference for you. I mean, it's rehabilitation through the arts. That's
Correct.
RTA, right?
Correct, RTA,
And it
correct.
drops it down to 3%.
Yeah, so the fact, well, it was definitely influential to me when I first got out because the volunteers follow up with you once you get out too.
And they taught you Shakespeare. They
All of that, bro.
everything.
All of that, and it teaches you life skills. How to be part of a team. How to express emotions and feelings that normally men who are incarcerated would never never talk about,
Yeah.
let alone get on stage.
and it was and then there would be a production.
They would
you
do a
perform
production.
it?
They would do productions. They would like take a break and then rehearse. And,
Right.
and people would
Do you
get
remember
on
what
auditions.
productions you put on?
So I was, like I said, I was paroled pretty early. I was telling you guys before, I was never supposed to be in Sing Sing, except I was supposed to be there because I experienced that. But I had what is a skid bit. I was doing 3.5 to 7. These guys are doing football numbers. So I got released. I was actually part of the first production that was ever put on called Poetry in Motion, where it started out as a poetry class. And we went to the class and they said, write a poem of what it's going to be like when you get out. And so I went back and I went to jail because of drugs and alcohol. I used to sell just because to support my habit, basically. So my poem was called Should I Throw or Should I Go? Meaning, should I go back to throwing drugs or should I go to work? And when I read my poem after the 2 weeks, we came back, my poem was kind of like your poem about drugs. And then his poem was more like about girls getting back with their family and this and that. And the next thing you know, there was like a lot of correlation between these two poems and these two poems. So out of that was built a play. So we set it in Grand Central Station, where we just happened to run into each other waiting for the train to come, right? And we're like, oh, hey, Chico, what's up, man? I haven't seen you. What's up, bro? What's going on with you? Oh, I'm doing this, and that. Oh, I got this job I got to go to. Spotlight on me doing my poem. And then blackout, spotlight on you doing your poem because it was similar. And then boom, and then we made this, it's prison, bro, so it's like makeshift. We had some dollies with some cardboard and we painted a train
Nice.
to come through behind us. And I remember recording, doom, 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 next stop, Penn Station. Staying clear of the closing doors, please.
Yeah.
And that was the first thing that we ever did. And I was a part of that. So, but then now these guys, when I got paroled, they took it to the next level. They started doing Shakespeare. They did 12 Angry Men. You can go on the website on the rta.org and see the list of the plays that these guys put on. The movie is about how they finished one play. I think they finished like some Shakespeare thing. And this new guy comes through who's like a gangster. He's really just there to go to the school building to do his business. But he winds up getting involved in the program, and he comes up with the idea, like, why don't we do a comedy? And they're like, comedy? What are you talking about? And they start hitting on that idea that, well, we could do a Western like Blazing Saddles, or we could do Gladiators, or we could do... And they start kicking out all these ideas, crazy ideas of this. And he's like, whoever heard of a comedy that has Jason... Freddy Krueger and Spartacus and Robin Hood, and what are you talking about? And the guy Brent Buell, who's played in the movie by Paul Raci, says, "Well, I'll take a stab at writing it for you guys. If you guys like it, we can do it. If we don't, we'll pivot." In a weekend, this man wrote the whole play called "Breaking the Mummy's Code," about time travel, this mummy prince that time travels through all these different things. And it was just a way so that there were more parts in the play for everybody who was involved in the program to be in the play. And it's hilarious. It's just crazy, zany, like kind of like Time Bandits type of thing. And that's the part of the movie of putting together this play that Brent wrote and putting it on. But then there's the relationship between the new guy who's like this gangster kid and the one who's like the not director, but one of the founding members of RTA when I was there, Divine G, I'm forgetting his name, but his last name is Woodfield, but he's Divine G, that Coleman Domingo is playing in the movie. And their relationship, how it blossoms, and the brotherhood that happens in a place where you really wouldn't see that, the walls behind prison. And that's really what the movie is about. It's about brotherhood. And now it's snowballing into the fact that, we're not just our past. We can change. Things can change.
Yeah.
Lives can turn around. Families can be restored. Things like that. So it's a great movie. Sing Sing. Check it out.
Amazing. Gonna check it out. Dude, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Absolutely
Thanks,
wonderful.
pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Tell everyone where they keep up with you, all the things that you're involved in. Where can they get tattooed by you?
Okay, so my tattoo studio is Ink Addiction. There's 2 locations, one on Oakland Park Boulevard and one in Wilton Manors. That's Ink Addiction 2. That's where I primarily work out of. My website is miguelvalentin.com. On Instagram, it's Vampire Miguel, and the other Instagram is the Hell's Gate Halo. We do a bi-monthly smaller party called Fan Club. You don't have to have fangs to get in, but it helps. And we do a poetry slam, and then the whole concept of the Halo is to promote the arts, whether music, dance, poetry, playwriting, theater, all of that. We want to see it. We want to showcase it for no charge. We don't charge anybody for any of that. It's just a safe space to show your art. That happens bi-monthly. You get all the information at Hell's Gate Halo on Instagram, and Vampire Miguel on Instagram. Otherwise, all of that will be on miguelvalentin.com as well.
Amazing.
I think that's it. Yeah, man.
And there was a charity that you supported as well?
That's right. Yeah. So with every party that we throw the balls, we invite a charity to come. For the last 2, it's been purr.org, PURRR, 3 R's.org. And that's a local cat sanctuary in Broward County where they do all medical veterinarian stuff, whether it's spay, neutering, or if they just need some medical attention. Plus they find forever homes for the feline population.
Right.
So we have a lot of witches in our Halo. So,
Cats.
The familiars, it's got to be cats.
Impossible.
Impressed with your humanity, the deepness of your heart, and the fact that you can suspend. And you're encouraging Chico to do it. So we'll look forward to seeing you up in the air soon, right?
We'll see.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Thank
See you
you
next time. And stick around for the bonus episode about the double dicks.
Double dicks, yes.
If you have the time.
Double
dicks.
Yeah.
Double
1, 2,
devil
3.
dicks.
It's the triple D.
Awesome.
Thank you. Remember, if you like what we're doing, follow, share, and subscribe.
And if you really like what we're doing, please give us a 5-star review. It really helps.